All right, hello everyone. This is the CircuitPython weekly meeting for Monday, June 2nd, 2025. It's time of the week where we get together and talk about all things CircuitPython. I'm Liz. I'm sponsored by Adafruit to work on CircuitPython. CircuitPython is a version of Python designed to run on tiny computers called microcontrollers. CircuitPython development is primarily sponsored by Adafruit, so if you want to support Adafruit and CircuitPython, consider purchasing hardware from adafruit.com. This meeting is hosted on the Adafruit Discord server. You can join anytime by going to adafruit.it/discord. We hold the meeting in the CircuitPython dev text channel and the CircuitPython voice channel. This meeting typically happens on Mondays at 2 p.m. U.S. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, except when it coincides with a U.S. holiday. In the notes doc, there's a link to a calendar you can view online or add to your favorite calendar app. We also send notifications about upcoming meetings via Discord. If you would like to receive these notifications, ask us to add you to the CircuitPythonistas Discord role. There is a shared notes document that accompanies the meeting and recording. You can contribute to this document beforehand. The final notes document includes timestamps to go along with the video, so you can use the doc, skip around, and view the parts of the video that interest you most. Meeting is held in 5 parts. First part is community news. Second part, state of CircuitPython libraries and Blinka. Third part is hug reports. Fourth part, status update. And fifth part is in the weeds. It does look like there's a couple of in the weeds topics today if folks want to get familiar with them as the meeting goes. And that covers how everything will go. So with that, I will kick things off with community news. So headlines this week: CircuitPython 9.2.8 released. CircuitPython 9.2.8, the latest bug fix revision of CircuitPython, as a new stable release. Highlights: a fix DQ bug, fix I2S audio file read causing memory corruption, support Spectra 6 6-color e-ink displays, fix audio delays.delay when frequency shift equals true, and various board fixes. And then CircuitPython show. Last episode of this season of CircuitPython show, Paul welcomed Justin Myers. Justin shares how he started with computers and electronics, how he developed Connection Manager to make networking easier in CircuitPython. And then project of the week, PyBadge Face Invaders. PyBadge Face Invaders is an asteroids-like arcade game that runs on the Adafruit PyBadge and features personalized faces to dodge and destroy programmed in CircuitPython. And you can find more information about that on Hackster.io and GitHub. These news items and more are available in our weekly Python for Microcontrollers newsletter, which goes out via email on Monday mornings. Visit adafruitdaily.com to subscribe to the newsletter. Thanks to Anne for putting the newsletter together. If you have any Python on hardware projects to share or find content you'd like to see included, please consider contributing to the newsletter. You can email cpnews@adafruit.com with a link, hashtag CircuitPython, or tag @AnEngineer on Blue Sky, Mastodon, or X, or open a PR on GitHub in the CircuitPython Weekly Newsletter repo. And that is community news. Next up is state of CircuitPython libraries and Blinka. This is a quantitative overview of the entire project. Gives us a chance to look at the health of the project separate from our status updates. We'll talk about the project overall and then separately discuss the core, libraries, and Blinka. So first up, overall, there were 53 pull requests merged by 13 authors with 7 reviewers. There were 13 closed issues by 8 people and 11 opened by 10 people. And now we'll hear from Dan about the core.
Okay, thanks, Liz. In the core, in the last week, there were 11 pull requests merged by 6 authors, some internal and some outside. Timeline 8 has only had 1 pull request more before, thank you. So then there were 2 reviewers, ADCC, Bob, and me. And so now we've got 19 open pull requests. In the past week, there were 4 issues closed by 3 people and 5 opened by 5 people. We've got 768 open issues. They're divided up into milestones, which helps us keep track of what we need to do when. So for the upcoming 10.0.0 general release, there are still 18 open issues to address. There's 1 issue for 10.0.x, something that we can defer past 10.0.0. There are 42 open for some version of 10xx. There are 7 open for 11. Those are things that we need to defer until 11, maybe because they are breaking changes of some kind. And we've got no issues open on 9.2x. There are 16 issues open in the library, 638 long-term issues, 29 issues marked support, which means we're not sure it's a bug, but we're helping somebody. 16 are third party. That means we're depending on some third party to fix the bug. And there are 2 issues not assigned a milestone, so I need to triage those. And that is it for the CircuitPython core.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. Now we'll hear from Foamy Guy for the libraries.
Thanks, Liz. This section covers all of the CircuitPython libraries, which can be found on GitHub under names like Adafruit _CircuitPython _. Right now, or I should say always, we have these libraries split into 2 main bundles, the Adafruit bundle and the community bundle. Right now, the Adafruit bundle has 363 libraries, and the community bundle has 165 for a total of 528 libraries that support CircuitPython overall. Over the past week, we had 41 pull requests merged, which is on the high side. Lots of those were part of a sweep that I did that I'll talk about a bit more in status updates. We had 7 authors, which is cool to see. That's getting up there for authors for the week. A couple of the names that are newer or less frequent or just not familiar to my eye. These folks might be newer or less frequent contributors. We like to always call out those names when we can. Thanks this week to Ilario, to Panther Elio 7, Cinderblock Games, and Bzab. Again, those folks have names that are not as familiar to my eye, so they might be newer authors. Thanks to them for getting involved. We had 5 reviewers this week, thanks to Lady Ada, Tektrick, Liz, myself, and Dan. The pull requests that were merged, the vast majority of them were on the newer side at 1 day, but there were a couple of the ones at the other end of the list on the older side. The oldest one was 61 days, and there was one other at 52, and then it kind of dropped pretty rapidly after that. And again, most of those 1 day old ones were part of that sweep. Let me tell you about contributing to CircuitPython. If you would like to get involved and contribute to CircuitPython on the Python side of things, you can check out the website circuitpython.org/contributing. Once you load that page, you're going to find a list of open PRs, which are links over to GitHub. These represent changes that someone has submitted, and it's waiting for someone else to come along and review those changes. And if you would like to get involved, this is one of the first places where we tend to point folks who are new and just joining the community. You can look through that list, take a look and find something that is interesting to you or that you've got the hardware for or some knowledge about. Click through to GitHub. You can check out the branch of code that's in that PR and test it out locally if you do have the hardware. If you don't have the hardware but still want to look it over, you can totally do that right there in GitHub. You can take a look at the changes, look at them over for syntax, spelling, logic, anything like that. Leave a comment on GitHub letting us know what you found when you looked it over. If you did have hardware and you were able to test it out, let us know how that went in your comment. If you do that a couple of times, get comfortable with the process, and would like to get leveled up on GitHub to leave official reviews instead of comments, we can work with you to make that happen. And if you would like to start getting your hands dirty submitting some changes of your own instead of reviewing, you can also do that over on that same page, circuitpython.org/contributing. Along the top, there are some navigation links. If you click over to the use link, you will be taken to a page that looks the same. It's a big list of links over to GitHub, but these ones represent issues. There is no proposed change yet. So if you would like to help solve issues, you can then click through, read about the issue, figure out whatever it's for, whether it's a bug fix or a new feature or enhancement, new example, whatever, something like that. And then you can submit your own PR over on GitHub to resolve that issue. We do have a guide for contributing to CircuitPython using Git and GitHub. We also have folks who are around throughout the week who are more than happy to help you out on the Discord channel here. So if you are trying to get involved with reviewing or submitting your own changes to CircuitPython or the libraries, and you're having trouble, please come say hi on Discord. Let us know what you're up to, and we would be happy to help you out. And that is what we have for libraries this week. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Tim. And now we'll hear about Blinka. Blinka is our compatibility layer for CircuitPython on single board computers like Raspberry Pi. There was one pull request merged by one author, Foamy Guy, two reviewers, Maker Melissa and Foamy Guy. There are currently 13 open pull requests. There were 2 closed issues by 2 people, one new issue opened by 1 person. There are currently 154 open issues total, and we have 162 supported boards. And that is the state of CircuitPython libraries and Blinka. Next up is Hug Reports. Hug Reports is a chance to highlight folks in the CircuitPython community and beyond for doing awesome things. I'll start and then we'll go down the list of Hug Reports alphabetically. If you're text only or are missing the meeting, I'll read your notes when I get to them in the list. So to kick things off, Hug Reports Foamy Guy for helping, working on the OPT 4048 library and guide. Especially enjoyed your demo where you were transmitting data with the colors. I definitely would have thought to do that, so I'm glad you worked on it. And then a group hug to everyone. And now we'll hear from Dan.
Okay, thanks to Timeline 8 for some recent fixes that were very helpful. Thanks to Tetrick, who has been recently working on some GitHub actions and doing some library work. That's really helpful. Thank you. And thanks to Sola85, who diagnosed a code error that may be causing an old problem, and also has been encountering some new problems that we need to look into. And that's it.
Great, thank you. I'll read for David Glau, who's not present. He has a group hug. And now we'll hear from Foamy Guy.
All right, thanks, Liz. I have a hug report for TechTrick. Let's make it perhaps a couple of hug reports. Actually, I wrote this one in here last week after TechTrick reviewed some library PRs for me, and he's done a few more over the weekend. And also TechTrick, like Dan mentioned, was looking into some other library and docs issues and submitting fixes for that. So thanks to TechTrick. And then I also have a hug for Dan for looking into an issue with the reports files that are uploaded to S3 and fixing that up a bit by cleaning out some of the old ones. And that's what I've got. Thanks.
All right, thank you. And now we'll hear status updates. Status updates is our time to tell folks what we're up to individually. I will start and we'll go through the list of updates alphabetically. When I call on you, take a few minutes to talk about what you've been doing since last meeting and what you'll be doing until the next meeting. If a discussion becomes too long for status updates, we can move it to In the Weeds. Okay, so last week I worked on a CircuitPython library for the Sen6 sensors. This library is used in the Learn Guide for the new Sen6 Stemma QT adapter breakout, which will likely be live later this week. Pretty cool sensor, you can get a lot of data from it. And then this week I wrote some CircuitPython code for an LED matrix clock project. That's going to be a new Ruiz Brothers project this week. It uses 2 of the Stemma QT IS31FL3741 breakouts. Those are those like colorful RGB PWM breakouts as the clock display. And then it's getting internet time with NTP with an ESP32S3QT And then it uses an audio BFF for some audio alarm functionality. And I'll also be working on documenting the new INA 237 breakout that was added to the shop last week. And so that's what I'm working on. And now we'll hear from Dan.
All right. So in the last week, I fixed MPY cross builds. A user noticed that the Linux one was not actually statically linked, so it didn't work on an older version of Linux. And so it turns out that this has actually been a problem for quite a while, and it was a regression, and I fixed that. And that's fixed in the latest version, or it's fixed on main, and it'll show up in the next 10.00 version. I also switched main from using GCC 13 by default to using GCC 14 by default. There seems to be only very minor differences in the code size from 13 to 14. Some things are bigger, some things are smaller, but not by much. But it's worth keeping up with the changes. I did a bunch of reviews, and mainly I'm now working on MicroPython version 1.24.1, merging MicroPython version 124.1 into CircuitPython. That's looks like not as complicated a merge as some previous ones have been. And I'll do 1.25 after that, which will bring us up to date with numbered merges from MicroPython. And that's it.
All right, thank you. Now I'll read for David Cloud. Has progress on displaying the eVVC solar panel and EV car charging on various hardware while trying to keep a single code base. Trying to dynamically adapt to various screen sizes with different hardware. We'll need to change font size depending on screen size or display less information on smaller screens. Creating a function in a separate Python file to isolate the network initialization. It does detect the board or using the right calls for an airlift or WizNet featherwing based on extra variable in settings.toml. The function returns socket pool and SSL context for later use with mini MQTT. Creating a text-only version using print rather than display IO. We'll be able to test the network code on PicoW or other board without screen attached. And currently working combo PyPortal, Memento, T-Watch, Feather RP2040 with Featherwing Airlift, and Feather RP2350 with Featherwing WizNet. Very cool. And now we'll hear from Foamy Guy.
All right, thank you. I finished up the driver and guide for the OPT 4048 last week. And after that, I started working on updating some libraries to use the latest display.io API changes. I am most of the way done with that. I've been searching them up in GitHub, and I think there are only a handful remaining after a few more I did this weekend. So I am excited to get that wrapped up. While I was working on that, I found a good opportunity to create this new type alias called AnyDisplay and add that to CircuitPython typing. This technically existed inside the core in a docstring in core display.io, but it was not in CircuitPython typing, and it turns out that the docs build basically don't see the core strings, even though they do exist once they get to the website and you can click through to them and stuff like that. So that's there now, and we can type very easily in libraries, like when they have an argument that can take any kind of display, doesn't matter what it is. Similarly, still in display.io land over in Blinka display.io, I removed the 8x compatibility. This was removed a while ago in the core, which is what I was updating the libraries for. So this brings Blinka in line with the core, and while I was there, I also fixed an unrelated issue in Blinka that was caused by circular imports. So you would try to import something and it wouldn't work due to the way some of the other files were. That is fixed now. And then the other thing that I worked on was the code for a Feather S2 to deep sleep and then wake up and take a sensor reading from the onboard BME 280 sensor and post the data to Adafruit.io. The code is working, but I found after I left it running for a while that my flash was getting corrupted on the device. So I've been troubleshooting that, trying to tease out different parts of the code and run on different versions to narrow down the cause. And so I've created an issue for that, and I also have a couple of other things to test once the meeting is over today. And that's what I've been up to. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Tim. I meant to say in our previous meeting that I also have that Feather board, so if you want to send me that code to also test, I'd be happy to.
Cool. Yeah, thank you. I will.
Cool. All right, and that was status updates. Next is In the Weeds, which we have 2 topics today. In the Weeds is an opportunity for long-form discussions that either come out of status updates or the folks have identified ahead of time. If you have a In the Weeds topics, please make sure they get added while we're discussing other things. But today, we have topics. And I see people responding to David Cloud, who posted both topics. I will read his initial question, and then if folks who are responding want to chime in with audio, I think that would be a good way to maybe handle this. So first, is there an easy way to auto-detect what network stack is possibly available on a board? Are the following assumptions right? How would you suggest doing that? Assumption 1, if the module Wi-Fi is present, you're on ESP or PicoW, Pico2W, and you should use that. Assumption 2, if this is a board with built-in airlift, then there are pins with a specific name that you can identify the availability of an airlift. Assumption 3 is hard to tell if Feather has an airlift or WizNet featherwing attached. It is easier if you have an environmental variable for that. Dan, do you want to talk to this, or would you like me to read your comments instead?
No, I can talk to it, but I'll read anecdatas also.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, as anecdata knows for assumption 1, if the Wi-Fi model is present, then you're on such and such. you should use that. Yes, though, as Anna says, though should is relative because you may have more than one network interface. For instance, you might have a Pico or an ESP that has both Wi-Fi and an Ethernet interface. So you might have to decide what to do. Assumption 2 is how can you tell if there's a built-in airlift? And the answer is usually that there's an ESP-CS pin usually defined, though it might have different names on some boards. So you could look for that. Assumption 3 is could you have an environment variable that says that whether there's an attached network interface? And the answer to that is there's no reason for us to. You could make your own environment variable that says has network or has Wi-Fi or something or has airlift, because there wouldn't be kind of a use for it inside, especially since the airlift code is basically all Python libraries. So there's the CircuitPython itself doesn't need to know whether or not there's an airlift attached. And then Anecdata also suggests you could completely define a radio module or the radio in an important Python file and use that radio base for Wi-Fi, airlift, or Ethernet. So that's an interesting idea also. And then finally, do you know if it's possible or planned to build an airlift for the Fruit Jam? The short answer is that there are prototypes of the Fruit Jam that have an ESP32C6 on them, which is basically will be supported by the airlift software. And so you don't need an external airlift, it'll be there. So that's planned. So the rest of the question is perhaps moot at this point because it'll be supported. That's what I have to say.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Cool. So I think that'll wrap things up. Thanks, folks, that responded to the In the Weeds topics. And I'll go ahead and go into the wrap up. This has been CircuitPython Weekly for Monday, June 2nd, 2025. Thank you to everyone who participated. If you want to support Adafruit and CircuitPython and those of us that work on CircuitPython, consider purchasing from the Adafruit shop at adafruit.com. The video of this meeting will be released on YouTube at youtube.com/Adafruit, and the podcast will be available on major podcast services. It'll also be featured in the Python for Microcontrollers newsletter. Visit adafruitdaily.com to subscribe. Next meeting will be held next Monday, as usual, at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. This meeting is held on the Adafruit Discord, which you can join by going to adafruit.it/discord. To be notified about the meeting with any changes to the time or day, you can ask to be added to CircuitPython Nisa's role on Discord, and we hope to see you all next week. Thanks, everyone.